Hello, 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 everybody. Good morning. It's 11:51 here on the East Coast, and still good morning. So good morning, everybody. Welcome. My name is Maria Suleiman. Welcome to AMA LTL. LTL stands for our lunchtime learning training or lunchtime learning series. It's a series of webinars that we do on a variety of topics to help you build your leadership competencies. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am going to be showing my screen in a minute, so I just want to do a tech check first to make sure that everybody can hear me. Can everybody hear me? If you can type yes in the questions chat box, or if you just raise your hand and let me know that you can hear me. And then I just shared my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen as well. All right, I see some hands raised. Thank you, Ellie. I see some hands raised. So delighted to have you join us today and be part of our AMA LTL community. All right. I also am going to have Erica here. Erica Breedley, my wing woman. She's on the webinar as an organizer and a panelist. If you have any questions, feel free to private chat her or just put your question, any technical issues, she can help you with that. So we will be getting started right at 12 o'clock. The webinars are half an hour, so we start early so that we can make the most of the time. But for those of you who jumped on early, I want to hear where you're joining me from today. So if you want to just type in the questions box what agency or company you're with and where you're joining from. We have a huge following from federally employed women organization for Blacks in government, as well as from the Maryland Small Business Development Centers, the SBDC. So we have a following of small business owners as well that attend our webinars. So just let me know where you're joining from today, and what agency you're with. So Ellie, you joined from FEW. What agency are you with, Ellie? Department of Education, Elizabeth Eldridge, that is our flagship customer. DOD, Ellie is with DOD. Awesome. Great to have you ladies here joining us today. Couple more people. We have 171 people registered for this webinar today. I think this is our largest group so far that we've ever had, and people are rolling in. So as you come in, please make sure that you can confirm, rather, that you can hear me and see my screen. Just type yes in the questions box, and then also just doing a shout out to see where people are joining from today. So what agency or what organization or what company are you with, and where are you located? So we have so far Department of Education in Washington, D.C. in the house. We also have DOD. Ellie, where are you located? I know you're with DOD, but where exactly you're located? All right, so you can see my screen. I'm getting confirmation that people can see my screen and hear me. That's great. That's great. Today's topic is on leading in an organization, or leading an organization. Texas. So Ellie is joining us from Texas. Awesome. Yes, we go to webinar. The chat box the questions box is almost like the chat box. So just go ahead and put your comments in the questions box. Yeah, you're good. You're good, Ellie. Yeah, so I can see what you post in the questions box. So that's fine. What was I saying? Oh, yes. So I was saying that today's topic is on leading in an organization. So I usually do a series about leadership, just what leadership is. I start from leading yourself. Last webinar was on leading people. And then today we're going to be discussing leading in an organization. And I think great leadership, or what I'd like to call magnificent leadership, really starts from that. It starts from leading yourself. Then you can lead people. Then you can lead in a large system or small system. If you're a business owner or you're starting something, um, an organization, from by yourself or in a team. All right. Awesome. So we have more people joining and stating where they're joining from. We have Alicia, retired from DoD Mid-Atlantic, Philadelphia. Hi, Alicia. I know you're not new to AMA LTL. I believe that you've joined our webinars before because I recognize your name and your retired DoD. She said yes. Awesome. Welcome back. So we have a lot of AMA community members, I like to call them, in the house. Welcome. Glad to have you. Um, if you're just joining, we want to hear what agency you're with and where you're joining us from today. So Sandra is from USDA and she's from Raleigh, North Carolina. Awesome, Sandra. Thank you. Welcome. Glad to have you here today. For those of you who are new, I'm just going to put my bio here up on the screen, so that you can get familiar. I'll touch a little bit on, highlights of what's relevant about my bio once we get started. But I just want to put it on here so that you get familiar with me, if you are new to the AMA LTLs. All right, can we hear from a couple more people? Where are you joining us from today? What agency, what organization are you joining from, and what location are you joining from? Welcome, welcome. I'm seeing a bunch more people just came on, so we do want to hear from you. Definitely cannot unmute anybody, so just type where you're joining from in the questions box. Okay, so Christy is joining, is from NOAA, and she's right here in Maryland. We are located, I'm in Maryland as well. Our office is in Atlanta, Maryland, so glad to have Marilyn in the house as well. Welcome, Christy. Glad to have you here. Cheryl, good morning. And she's joining from San Antonio. Welcome. Glad to have you. Bill from USDA West Virginia. Wow. Welcome. Department of Education, FSA, Denver, Colorado, Allison Richards. Allison, I feel like you're also not new to AMA LTL. I feel like I've seen your name before. Adrian with Commerce, joining from Maryland. Glad to have you here, Adrian. Tanya from USDA. Tanya is not new. I know you join our webinars. Uh, yeah, Sandra said, good to see you again. Have participated in several of your presentations. Yes, Sandra, I do remember your name. Welcome again. Glad to have you. So we have a lot of faithfuls in the house today. Okay, and then we have Beatrice from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, retired DOD from Mechanicsburg, PA. Awesome. Awesome. Great to have you here. Great to have you here. Okay, Erica, I'm going to forward you an email. I think someone is having technical issues. I know some people also join on the phone because some agencies have a firewall that can sometimes block you from downloading the app. So if that's the case, you can just call in. But Erica, I just got an email. I'm gonna forward you about somebody trying to get on. They can just call in. Forward. All right, it is 12 o'clock. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Sorry, I just had to send a quick note to someone who's having technical issues. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Again, welcome if you are new to the AMA LTL. This is a webinar series that we do to help you strengthen your leadership competencies. I am Maria Suleiman. I am the Managing Director of AMA Consulting. By profession, I am an organizational development coach, organizational development consultant and executive coach. My experience stems from holding leadership positions in industry, working with small management firm that trained and coached senior leaders, in federal agencies and organizations to working for the government. So I'm a former Fed, worked for FEMA, also worked for the U.S. Small Business Administration, and then quit my good government job and started my company 9 years ago, supporting, federal agencies, serve what we do as a company. But really, my passion is developing leaders, helping people build their competencies for leadership. That's what I love to do. That is my passion. So in terms of AMA, obviously because of my background, we started in the organizational development space. So helping agencies, offices, divisions develop strategy and execution and people development, I like to call it. So training, coaching, leadership development programs. And then we grew into the business transformation space. So we have teams. Department of Education is our flagship customer. We have contracts there in the OCIO's office. We also work with the Office of Civil Rights as well as other POCs within the Department of Education, to include OESE, Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, and other POCs at OFO. So I know that there are a lot of Department of Education folks on today. So as I said, we go into the business transformation space. So we have teams that do process improvement work. We have had projects with FDA. We've done a ton of training for VA, for GSA, NASA, and so all these services that we offer across not only civilian agencies. We do have a contract with DHRA, Defense Human Resources Activity, which is under DoD. So we do work with DoD, and we have also done some work for the Navy as well. So we are both in the civilian and DoD space. On the IT side, we focus on data management, RPA, as well as assistive technology. That's one of our specialty niche as a company. So we help agencies with ensuring that all of their digital assets are accessible, and that has become a really, really top priority service now, with virtually most agencies operating digitally to ensure that they're able to reach all of their and target audiences. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about leading in an organization. That is the subject of today's webinar. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the questions box. But I just wanted to start with this term organizational excellence, because if you're going to be leading in an organization, I believe that it is critical that you understand what organizational excellence means and you strive for that. I think that a lot of times these terms are thrown around, but really just wanted to do a quick definition so that we're all on the same page, that we all understand what we mean when we use this term. Okay, so it's simply defined as constant, ongoing effort to establish internal framework of standards and processes that are intended to motivate your workforce to deliver. For most of you on here that are government employees, it will be more of services, not necessarily products, to deliver services that fulfill the requirements of the customer. So, and that you meet mission at the end of the day. That's what organizational excellence is fulfilling customer requirements and meeting your mission. Okay, so it's ensuring that your outputs exceed or meet the objectives or the needs or the expectations of your customer. That is what organizational excellence is. So if you're leading in an organization, this is very critical, that you understand this, that you're striving for this. I think a lot of times, unfortunately, in some organizations, there is no intention to strive for organizational excellence. It's just we show up, we do what we can do. You know, we don't even really know who our customer is. We don't really care about our customers' expectations, you know, because it's government, you know. But I really want us to get in that mindset, in this mind frame, as we go to the discussion, as we go through the discussion today. Okay, so what does it take to lead in an organization? What does it really take to lead especially in a complex organization? Let me even make it more granular. What does it take to lead in a complex organization? I am going to pause really quickly. It looks like we have someone who's saying, is anyone speaking? Yes, Janetta, I hope you can hear me. Can everybody else hear me? On my end, it's showing that my mic is on, but I have someone asking if anyone is speaking. So that tells me that she probably can't hear. Can everybody else hear me? Okay, so everybody's saying they can hear me fine. So it may be a technical issue. Erica, can you check on that, please? Okay, good. All right, so what does it take for you to lead in an organization? What does it take? Now, what I'm going to be discussing are different competencies that just from research, from Gartner, from McKinsey, or the large consulting firms, and even from the Office of Personnel Management, Executive Core Qualifications, the ECQs, that they determine that these are the competencies that are required. So on my list, the number one is systems thinking. And what does that mean? Is really systems thinking is thinking about the work that you do in terms of core processes and frameworks, more so than just project based. So that is what systems thinking is. And it's very important. This is a competency. Okay, so a competency is a skill, an ability to, it's a skill. So this is something that you can build. There are different resources on systems thinking. I actually have a book here. I will post resources. I like to post resources about different books if you want to develop in a particular competency. And actually, in our leadership development program that we do, we go into more depth about how you can develop each of these competencies. But that's what systems thinking is. And you'll be amazed at a lot of senior leaders. I see this all the time because I work with them, I coach them, who have no clue how everything comes together for their agency to function. They don't know the policies, they don't know the framework, they don't know the models that you're using to execute programs. They don't know the systems, the processes, the business processes. And then sometimes there's no efficiency within those things. So that's what systems thinking is essentially. So that is a competency. That is something that you can develop or you can grow in as a leader if you want to lead in an organization, especially in a large bureaucracy that is multi-layered, that is complex. And so that's systems thinking. The next one is change management. That is a competency that you can build your ability to be able to successfully manage and lead change. Change management is just essentially the ability to birth something new and sustain something new, whether it's a new IT system, whether it's a reorg. And I'm picking two of these competencies to go into in depth for the purposes of this presentation. And change management is one of that, because I think is one of the most significant competencies that you have as a leader to lead in an organization, because you cannot have a stagnant, what I call a stagnant mindset. You have to have a growth mindset in order for you to be able to successfully lead change. Okay. The third competency is strategic communication. This is also a competency. So our next webinar on September 9th is on effective communication. Communication is actually a skill. It's a competency that you can develop. Some people are natural, gifted communicators, are able to articulate their points, able to get people to buy in. They're able to, really craft their messages succinctly. They understand their audience. For other people, and even if you have the natural ability, you still want to grow in that space. So strategic communication is another huge competency that is required for you to be able to successfully lead in an organization, because organizations are made of people, and people are complex. Communication is a driving force for you to build influence, for you to manage conflict, for you to persuade, for you to put forth your ideas, for you to garner support, build consensus. It's all about strategic communication. So that's the third competency. The fourth one is political savvy. This is a critical one, and this is one of the ones that I am going to delve more deeper into, especially because I know I have a large following from federal agencies. I'm telling you right now, this is a competency that if you do not have, you will not be successful in leading in a federal agency. Whether you're a team lead, whether you're a supervisor, whether you're a branch chief, whether you're a division director, or whether you're in an SCS, you cannot be successful if you don't have political savvy. This is a competency that is a must-have, and is actually the first one that I'm going to talk about. So political savvy is essentially having the ability to manage the nuances of your organization to achieve your goal. I know it sounds so simple, but it's actually a little bit more complex, and there are layers upon layers of this, and we're going to go into more depth about that. Okay. The next competency is an enterprising acumen. So some people will say business acumen, and I think when you say business acumen, it can throw people off because people are like, well, we're not a business, we're a nonprofit or we're a federal agency. So I prefer the term enterprising acumen because essentially what it means to be enterprising is to have the mentality of creating and being innovative. That's what entrepreneurs do, is they create something new to serve a purpose for profit, or they repurpose something that was created for something else. They repurpose it for something new to serve a need, right? You have to have that enterprising acumen to successfully lead an organization. You have to be looking at your programs. What is your service delivery model? What are the needs? Is what I mean. If your programs are the same programs from the 1990, I can't talk, 1990s or the early 2000s, or even if your programs were pre-COVID, you have to start thinking now, does this still work in the post-COVID world? So that's what it means to be enterprising, is you're forward thinking, you're creating something new all the time, or repurposing what you have to constantly meet a need. Okay. Then the next competency is strategic hiring. This is also a competency. I coach a lot of leaders who, for whatever reason, they're handed the team that they're handed. And it's like, I didn't pick these people, I didn't hire these people, but this is a team that I have, and how do I work with them? So then there's a skill. Like if you have the opportunity to bring in a new hire, what exactly is the mix that you're looking for your team? You definitely want some people with extensive experience and domain expertise of your program, of your agency, but then you also want some fresh blood. You want to have a right mix, and that is a skill. Strategic hiring is a skill for leadership that's required in order for you to successfully lead an organization. People development, that's another competency. How do you develop your people? I know when we talk about people development, everybody just thinks about training. Those are the traditional models, training or coaching, but it's way more than that. I mean, it's mentoring, it's kinesthetic learning, meaning people learning as they go, is demonstrating that you're invested in their success, is helping people become leaders themselves. That's the duplication I talk about under magnificent leadership. So that is a competency. You have to know how to do that. Okay, it's required for you to successfully lead an organization, because the people are, they're essentially your legs, the legs and the arms of your goal and your vision as a leader. So if you don't develop your people, you can't accomplish your goals. Next competency, performance and quality management. This is also a competency. Knowing how you rate your performance. What metrics do you use? How do you? What are your key performance indicators for your different goals? What is quality? What does quality service delivery mean? Those are competencies, and there are different models that are used under performance and quality management. That's not one of the competencies that we're going to go into detail about today. And then culture is another competency. People think that culture is just something that arbitrarily happens. Culture, you are creating a culture in your organization, in your team, every day, consciously, unconsciously. So the competency that I'm talking about here is on having the ability to create the culture that is ideal for your team, for your customer, for you to achieve organizational excellence. That is a skill. That is a competency. All right. So these are the core competencies that are required for you to successfully lead an organization. Again, we have only 30 minutes, so I'm only going to go into detail for two of them. I'm going to pause right now and see if we have any questions. Uh, okay, we had someone who was not able to hear, but she can hear now. Any questions so far? I just want to pause for like 30 seconds to see if we have any questions, comments on any of the competencies that I've talked about. Is there anything that's not clear? Is there anything that you wanted to just address as regards organizational excellence before we go into the two competencies that we're going to discuss in more detail? So Trina says, can you recommend books related to these competencies? Well, Trina, if you tell me which ones specifically, then I can recommend books. I have recommendations for all of, all of them. So if you let me know which particular competency that you want, to political savvy, okay, I will. I actually do a webinar on understanding your organization. Police. Erica, please make a note of that. And if we can get Trina's email, I'll send her the recommendations. I do a webinar on understanding your organization because I think that that is the key to having that political savvy. And people always say, I don't want to play those games, the political games. Well, whether you want to play the game or not, the game is being played. So it's a question of whether you are going to understand the game and figure out how you fit in and what your goals are and how you can participate. And I'm not talking about manipulation. What I'm talking about is nuance and tact, is having nuance and tact to navigate through the proper channels to accomplish what you need to accomplish. I work with a leader at HHS, Office of Minority Health. And I was always amazed at how she could always get funding for her projects. I mean, her projects were not quote unquote what people will call highbrow projects, like the stuff that will make the news or make the Washington Post. But she had political savvy. She knew who to talk to. She knew the hot button topics, and she knew how to connect her project to those, even though they were not directly the hot button topic. And so she was always successful at getting funding and doing a lot with the little money that she had. And she got a lot of visibility for her program and her project. And she rose through the organization. But that is what I'm talking about. So a lot of times people think that political savvy has to do with being manipulative or but that's not what it is. It's actually a competency and a skill that is required in order for you to be successful. Okay, so what does that actually look like? Okay, the first thing is domain knowledge of your organization. I'm not talking about I work at FSA at Department of Education. Yeah, you work at Federal Student Aid. You know what the mission of Federal Student Aid is. Okay, but what are the core pillars of FSA? Within your office, what does your office do? What other offices are related or interdependent to the functions of your office? Who are the key players? What is the process? So what feeds into the work that your office does, and what outputs do you give, and to whom do you give within the general FSA? That's what I mean when I say having domain knowledge of your organization. Where does your money come from? Where does your funding come from? What are the hot button issues that may affect congressional appropriation regarding your office? You have to know these things because that's where you can figure out pain points, and that's where you can start to build strategic relationships with key decision makers and influencers within your organization. I coach a lot of leaders who have worked at an agency, 20 years. There's still GS14 trying to make SCS, and it's not just about doing the training. Yes, you do the training. Yes, on paper you meet all the requirements. Yes, you get the SES, but I've seen people who've gotten the SES and still working in the GS14 or 15 position because they didn't have this political savvy to navigate through the ranks to get to where they needed to get to within an agency. So it's not so much about your technical knowledge. You can know the program back and forth. It's not so much about just your own skills and abilities. It's also about understanding the organization. And this is what separates leaders from managers. This is again what separates leaders from managers, because you can talk budget. You understand how the budget works. You can talk funding. You can talk agency branding. You can talk hot button issues. You know what's going on within the organization. You understand the key players. You know their priorities. You know what it is they're trying to push, their agenda. Yes, and you also know the politics of it, because a lot of people say, I want to stay away from that. But the reality is a bunch of key decision makers within the agencies are political appointees. So you need to understand the mandate, what their mandate is. You need to understand their agenda. You need to understand their policy. Ooh. Excuse me. I apologize. The sneeze was taking a minute to come out. You need to understand their policy, ideas, mindset. You have to be aware of that, and that's very important. Okay, so under political savvy, interpersonal influence, you have to build your influence, and I'm telling you, the basis of you having influence is knowledge. People will respect you, they will listen to what you have to say when they know that you know your stuff. And know your stuff is not just the technical knowledge, like I said, it's really understanding the organization, understanding the programs, understanding the public that you serve. What are their needs? Putting all of that together, that is the political savvy. Putting all of that together is a political savvy. So building your interpersonal influence, as I talked about with the leader that I was coaching for getting funding for her office, that's really that's a matter of having political of having interpersonal influence. I also work with another leader who had a very great idea. You know, he was brought in to set up an office, OE office, which is Organizational Excellence Office. He had this great idea, of developing a big quality management system within FDA for them to be able to have one quality management system that they can essentially track all their performance metrics to. Extremely smart. I mean, Six Sigma black belt, change management certified, very well spoken, excellent facilitator. I mean, sharp, but he lacked this personal influence. So he was just never able to get the directors at the different CEDAR offices on board. He just never sold it to them because he didn't take time to cultivate the relationships. He didn't take time to understand what's going on in the overall FDA. He didn't take time to see beyond just his own vision of what he had, and the whole thing fell apart. I mean, they had money, I think, to bring 6 FTEs for a contract. It was supposed to be a 3-year project. After 1 year, they cut it down. They dismantled the whole OE, and now he's moved to doing something else. So that is the difference between what political savvy can give you, that interpersonal influence, social astuteness, can mean the difference between success and not success. Okay, social astuteness means you have to like people, you have to understand how to work with people, you have to be able to develop relationships. Again, it's not enough for you to have all the certifications, it's not enough for you to know all the domain, all the programs, it's not enough for you to be able to spit out the data and the facts, but you have to have I'm sorry, I'm just reading. Okay, political savvy is a hot topic. Everybody wants resources on that. Erica is collecting all the emails, and we will definitely send you guys the resources. I'm getting a lot of, I just stopped to look in the questions box real quick because I like to be interactive, and I also like to pack a lot of information in. We only have half an hour and we're doing this virtually. So I want to make sure that I don't leave anybody out. But yeah, we're going to just put your email if you're interested, and we'll send the recommendations for what topic that you're interested in. Okay, but social astuteness I was talking about. If you are going to lead in an organization, you cannot say I'm not a people person. If you're not a people person, then just go be a technical, be technical and just work on your project, and that's it. But if you're going to lead in an organization, especially in a complex organization in a bureaucracy, you have to be a people person. You have to stop and talk to people. You have to build relationships. You have to show interest in people beyond the job. You have to learn about what people's pain points are. It is critical. Outside, you have to build those relationships. Social astuteness is very, very important. You have to have that social astuteness. You have to be a people person in order for you to have political savvy. I mean, because it can be a difference between something that's coming down the pipe and a relationship that you have. Someone can call you and give you foreknowledge about it. That's critical advantage that you will not have if you didn't have that relationship. So social astuteness is very important, and you can build this. Everybody's personality is different. I'm an introvert. I prefer to lock my door and be in the office and just do my work. But because I run an organization, I have to go out there, meet people. I'm building my business. I have staff. I can't just lock my door and not interact with my staff. I have teaming partners, business colleagues. So I've had to build this competency. It doesn't come natural to me, but I've had to build it. I've taken classes on, how to sit down and build rapport, how to have communication, eye contact, body language. I mean, I took a class on the term is escaping me right now, but it's somatics, on using your body to communicate. Because I speak. It's people think, oh, you're such a great speaker. No, it's practice. I learned it, and I'm still learning it. So that is what social astuteness is. You can develop in that area if it doesn't come naturally to you. Another big thing that is required for you to be successfully political savvy is that you have to be authentic. People can see through you if you're manipulating, if you're trying to be something that you're not, if you're embellishing, if you're lying. You may be able to get away with it for a while, but after a while, people will start to see through you. So authenticity is critical, and that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of self-leadership for you to know who you are, know your leadership strengths, weaknesses, know your own leadership philosophies, know your non-negotiables, and have the confidence to project that. That is a magnet. I'm telling you, when you're authentic, people just gravitate towards you, and people just do whatever you want because people are yearning for that. You look at someone like Oprah Winfrey, what has made her so successful? That's it. The raw authenticity. People feel like they can relate. So that's a big thing for political savvy, is being authentic. And another thing too about authenticity is that people now know what to expect, and there's consistency. So you have character. People know, okay, yeah, Maria may be XYZ, but she's not going to stand for this. She's not going to stand for it in January, February, March, April. It doesn't matter what the weather is. So now there's character. People know what to expect. That increases your stock, if you will, because then people respect you. Authenticity is important. Mental agility. Okay, so this is a big one, and this is a huge one in federal agencies. It's like, this is how we've always done it. We've been doing this for 30 years. I've been here. I hear people, I've been in this agency 30 years. I've been here 20 years. Okay, fine. That's how you were doing it 20 years ago, but you have to have the mental agility to change. We are doing a leadership conference November 5th. We do a leadership conference every year. And our theme this year is going to be leading to recovery, right? Because I'm talking to a lot of leaders, and people are still stuck in the pre-COVID world and say, can't wait for things to go back to normal. Well, that normal is going to look very different than it was pre-COVID. So you have to have what I call mental agility. Mental agility just simply means the ability to be able to change your mind, look at things from a different perspective, have the humility to accept that where you are right now may not be where you need to be, that what you've held for long as the truth, there may be a modification to that. That takes a lot of self-awareness and humility. So mental agility is also very critical for you to be politically savvy, because you have to be able to shift and move. And that doesn't mean that you lose sight of your values or you don't stay true to your values, but it's just the ability to compromise, to look at things from a different perspective, and value other people's opinion. So inclusion is also important. Now, quickly, we're going to touch on change management. This is just a study on change management. Most change initiatives fail, and this is according to Gartner. And yet, typical organizations are undergoing 5 major changes every 3 years. Yet the change doesn't work. So you no wonder why organizations are in chaos, because there's a lack of a leadership competency to manage change. Okay, so what are we talking about here when we talk about change management? Number one, responding to crisis and incidents. If you lack the competency to handle change, this COVID season and post-COVID world is going to be very, very difficult, because, as I said, things are not going to be as they were. So reorgs or mergers and acquisitions, we see this a lot in agencies. A new leader comes in, they have their own idea, they hire a big shot consultant, and they shift everything around. A lot of times they don't even do proper assessments to see whether these offices fit with one another and whether there are actual redundancies in their business operations, and it makes sense to put them together. to create efficiencies. They just make the change. And then as a leader, you're thrown into that and you have to figure it out. Okay. Culture changes that comes with leadership change, workforce change, a bunch of people retiring, have new generations of people coming in. That's a whole change because you know the different generations, the millennials, the Gen X, their idea of work is very different from the baby boomers' idea of work. So that's all change. So change is constantly happening. Quick tips. Number one, demonstrate leadership commitment to change. It's nothing worse than change going on and leadership is absent, or leadership is just says, oh, this is what's happening, and then they're gone. Well, leadership has to demonstrate commitment to change, top down change, showing that this is what we want. This is the direction we're going, having very clear expectations. That's really, really critical for change to be successful and for change to work. Secondly, engage the workforce to co-create the change. So yes, the mandate should come from leadership, but you have to engage the workforce. So we recently did a strategic plan project for DC Department of Health, their Cancer and Chronic Disease Bureau. And, we're creating this next 5-year strategic plan. And the first thing I told your senior leaders is we are going to have to create a survey to really get feedback from the workforce. They are the boots on the ground. So we need to hear from them. What's working, what's not working? What do we need to strive for? Where are the gaps? And so the feedback that we got was so great. And essentially the plan is going to be easier for them to implement because a lot of the ideas came from the people who are going to be implementing the plan. Okay, so engaging the workforce to co-create change, it just makes it easier for them to then implement because they were part of the change process. They were part of what was going to be changed in the beginning. Okay, then communication. A lot of times with change, where things really get murky is where there's no communication. It's like, oh, we're hearing that this is going to happen. Oh, now we're not going to be able to telework, or we're teleworking. When is it going to stop? Nobody knows. Then there's confusion because there's no open and clear and often communication. I have gone over the time. I just want to put up here upcoming events. As I mentioned, our September webinars are on the 9th and the 23rd, effective communication. On the 24th, we have a trainers information session. We're always looking for retired feds or retired military folks who want to join us either as a subject matter expert or as a trainer. Again, have to have background and experience in the different service areas that we offer. So we're having a trainer information session about that. And then our Magnificent Leadership Conference, this will be our 5th annual Magnificent Leadership Conference. I've put the website on here. You can go and check on it and see the last year's conference and previous conference materials, but this year is going to be done entirely online, and instead of it being a full day, it's only going to be half a day, and we're going to get more details out there, but I just wanted to mention it and put it on here. And this is our contact information. If you want to send us an email, I am going to stay on for questions because I know that kind of zipped through the material, and I know if you have questions, I definitely want to answer your questions. So are the slides available? No, we don't give out the slides because I refresh the information and I update it all the time. And I try not to do more than one topic in a year, but sometimes we do. And so we just don't want to send out the slides and then we update the information. And when I'm redoing the webinar, it's different information. And you're like, well, I got the wrong information. Okay. So we don't give out the slides. Okay, so Nina says she would like to volunteer as a trainer. Yes, Nina, please send us your information. Trainers, okay, trainers information session retiring soon. Yes, 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 please send your email. Send us your email and say I'm interested in the trainers information session so that Erica can get that information to you. We are capturing all of this. So if you just send your email and just put a dash and say trainers information session, we'll make sure we compile the list of that and get that information to you. How about the last 2 slides, contact info? Just take a picture of it. Take a picture of the contact information. That way you can reach out. Okay, will you please go back to the upcoming events slide? There you go. Any questions? So Allison is interested in political savvy and change management resources. Okay, Erica is keeping tab of all of this, and I will get you guys the resources. I will get you guys the resources. So change management, I would just encourage you, if you're not familiar with the PROSCI change management model, PROSCI, look it up. That is the model that we use when we train on change management and even when we implement change management projects. So if you're very interested in change management and you really want to pursue that, look up PROSCI, PROSCI. I'm just going to throw that out there real quick for change management. I'll also send you other resources as well in terms of books. Any other questions? Questions, comments? Was there anything that wasn't clear? Anything that is still a budding? I know I kind of zipped through the competencies really quickly. Trainer information session. Okay. All right, great. I'm capturing all this information. You're welcome, Cheryl. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Any other questions? All right, if we don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. I thank you guys again for joining. It was really great having you all. Thank you and have a great rest of the week. And everybody, please stay safe. Wanda says excellent session. Thank you. Sheila, you are welcome. Thank you for joining. It was a pleasure to have you. Great session. Elizabeth says great session. Thank you. You're welcome. Allison, you're welcome. Sandra, you're welcome. Great having you all. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. Take care.